Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our How to Pitch workshop. Before we get started, I want to share a couple housekeeping things with you. If you've been with us in a workshop before with the Small Business Development Center, we love engagement. So feel free to use your emotions that are at the bottom of your Zoom screen or for a reaction, or you can raise your hand in there. You're also welcome to drop a note in the chat or private message me, and I will share those questions with Tom at the end of today's workshop. This virtual workshop is scheduled for 1 hour today, and we ask that you keep your microphone muted while we're presenting and recording. That way we have a clean recording for you all to access after today's workshop. Closed captioning is available if you would like that turned on or off in your Zoom menu. And encourage you to take notes today or pull up your notes app on your computer or phone. And one more thing, at the end of today's workshop, I will post a poll separate from the poll that is on the screen currently that helps us as we're presenting today. But that is our virtual evaluation. That your feedback is really important to us, and it helps us strive to bring you the best quality training available. The information you provide is anonymous and confidential and will be used to collectively evaluate today's workshop. As we're getting started, we're going to share a quick video. All right. That video was created by the America's SBDC, which is a nonprofit association that represents America's nationwide network of small business development centers, the most comprehensive small business assistance network in the United States and its territories. To share a little bit more about the Small Business Development Center, I just thought that was such a great way to encapsulate in a short session of what the SBDC does and shows the broad scope of our work here across our region. Our SBDC currently serves the greater New River Valley. Whoops, excuse me, I'm sorry. The New River Valley and the Allegheny Highlands in Franklin County. Our Small Business Development Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration and is supported by America's SBDC, the Virginia SBDC, Mason Enterprise Center at George Mason University. Other funding is provided by local administrations, economic development offices, organizations, and businesses that are all champions in your corner. We want to express a special thanks to our host, the City of Roanoke, for providing space and support for our work. We are one of 26 centers from across the state of Virginia. So if you are joining us outside of the greater Roanoke and New River Valley, this is a map of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and you can see the SBDCs are scattered across the state of Virginia. And we are right here in this star here. If you are not in our service area, I will post a link in our chat for you to find the SBDC closest to you. All right. The SBDC team delivers professional, high-quality, individualized business advising and technical assistance to existing small businesses and pre-venture entrepreneurs. Small business development centers provide problem-solving assistance to help small businesses access capital, develop and exchange new technologies, and improve business planning, strategy, operations, financial management, personal administration, marketing, export assistance, sales, and other areas required for small business growth and expansion, management improvement, and increased productivity and innovation. So as you see here, we help you with all the stages throughout your business ownership journey. Thank you for showing up today to spend time to work on your business. And I wanted to post our contact information. If you're not currently engaging with us on social media, I encourage you to do that. Our tag is at RRSBDC. We're really active on both Instagram and Facebook. We also post things on our YouTube channel. That's where this class recording will be posted after today's workshop, as well as on LinkedIn. So without further ado, I want to introduce my colleague, Tom Tanner. Tom is our lead advisor and also our Vet Biz coordinator, who will be our presenter today. So join me in welcoming Tom. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Tom, turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen, which is just, no matter how many times I do this, is always a not sure if it's going to work situation. I think I'm good, aren't I?
You are good.
All
It looks
right.
great. Thank you.
So thank you all. If anybody else want to fill out this poll, I appreciate that because it really gives me a good idea, which really is surprising results here. Matter of fact, I guess we could just go ahead and, oh, you're sharing the results already? Yeah. Is a lot of you are here that currently don't have a plan on doing any pitching, but you just want to learn more, which is good because at some point you are going to want to pitch your business. It could be to an investor, it could be for a contest, it could be just pitching your business to let people know about what you've got going on. So with that, we are going to get started. So what we're going to cover today is the basics of pitching with a concentration more on contest and meeting with maybe individual single investors, not much about angel groups or VCs, which is probably just as well if it doesn't look like anybody's interested in that anyway. So we're not going to be talking about some of those strategies. So over my years, I had sat through hundreds and hundreds, I don't even know how many, probably even 1,000 pitches. And I've seen good and bad. So what we're going to do today is kind of talk about the preparation for pitches, knowing certain things, and kind of the steps that you go through and what you should present in your pitch so you don't end up like good old Dilbert here and everybody falls asleep on you. So the first thing you really need to understand is these three things. So what is your audience? Who are you talking to is really the first thing you need to be thinking about. So if you're doing a business plan contest, which I noticed there's a group of y'all are going to be doing a contest, is that you want to know how you're going to be scored. So what is the plan? So get a hold of the score sheet so that you know what to make sure that you're talking about. Because if they're scoring things, you want to make sure that you're mentioning those things in your presentation. Because they may be interested in things like growth or job growth, or maybe they're interested in the economic impact that you're going to have on the community. Well, you want to talk about the economic impact you're going to have on the community so that you score high in that area. Or maybe you're presenting to a social entrepreneurship program. Then you want to talk more about the social conscious and give back portion of your business and not talk about the profitability and the marketability of your company. Of course, if you're talking to investors, that's a whole different situation because they're going to be interested in how do you make money? Is it a proven market? Or do you have the team to pull it off? All right, the second thing is, what is the goal of your pitch? Is it to win a contest? Is it to get investments? Or is it basically just to let the public know about your business or your idea so that they do business with you or later on they get involved in your business or whatever? The third is know your restrictions. No matter what type of pitch you're doing, you're always going to have some sort of restrictions. They're going to tell you how many slides you're going to have. They're going to tell you how many minutes you've got. Well, you've got to know that so that you know how to produce your presentation. All right. So we're going to talk about the good and bad. And again, I've seen a bunch of good and I've seen a bunch of bad. So in probably some of the bad stuff I'm mentioning, you're probably going, gosh, I can't believe somebody does that stuff, or I can't believe that people are doing that. But you got to be careful that you don't end up doing it and your audience is saying the same thing about you. So we're going to let you know up front what you need to be careful of. All right. Of course, there's several things wrong in this, but the main one I'm pointing out is one that I have actually seen numerous times where somebody comes in and they actually read their presentation. They stand and look at the screen the entire time, never look at eye contact with everybody else. This is a gigantic no. Okay. You have to maintain contact and you have to feel like you're talking from your experience in the business. So I have to relay a story that I always find interesting, even though it may not be that great. But this was a presentation. This gentleman came into the room. He had a DVD in his hand, and us judges were sitting there and going, "All right, man, we get to see what his business does. Maybe it's a working video of the product or whatever else." So he put the DVD in and he sat down and just sat there, pushed the play button. And what it was, he had recorded his presentation of him sitting at a chair giving his presentation. So the whole time we were watching the video of him doing a presentation while he sat there and watched us watch him do a presentation. Needless to say, we weren't not overly impressed at that particular presentation. So, all right, second is, unfortunately, I see this a lot, is that people try to cram a lot of information, especially if they have a limited number of slides. They try to cram a lot of information on one slide. First of all, your slides are not designed to be the entire presentation. She's going to be the entire presentation, just hand them the presentation and leave. The idea is to use the slides just as making points, a few points, maybe not more than 3 or 4 points with large enough fonts, 30 fonts, 30-point fonts as much to show particular things that you're going to go in more detail about. And don't ever use crazy fonts like some people try to use calligraphy fonts and everything else to be cute, and it's not cute. All right. All right. So this is another one I've seen, not this particular slide, but I've seen things as busy as this, where you've got so much going on here that even if people are looking at the slide, they're trying to figure it out and they're not even listening to what you're saying. Okay. So when this could be useful is if there is a particular area in here that you zoom into and show about. Or what it could be useful is that you shrink it down to the point included as part of a slide to show this shows the complexity of this system. But just to put it up here just to confuse people is not necessarily good. Now, a lot of your products may be complex in nature, which means, you have a technical product, but you always want to try to avoid technical jargon and certainly avoid acronyms unless they're fairly recognizable. And even though some things are very technical in nature because of what the product is, your job is kind of dumb it down a little bit to the presentation of the audience and talk about, concentrate on the product and the benefits to the customer, high level functionality of it, maybe tell a story about a customer using your product. And we're talking more about storytelling a little bit. And that's what you do. So here's an example. And of course, you're going to get a copy of this presentation, is that here's a complex medical software. So, you could sit there and go into how we develop the software, the algorithms that we use, all the high level programming, how it all works. Or you could just say, all right, did you know that more than 50% of technical errors in surgery led to unexpected anatomy? And then you talk a little bit about the problem, and then you show this is how it works. and that puts the message across. It dumbs it down to your audience. It basically provides them the information. So don't make it overcomplicated no matter what your product is. All right. You also want to look at people like images and photos and things like that. You don't want to use much text. You want to be able to use as many graphics, charts, anything like photos or whatever, so that people can easily understand and visually interpret what you're trying to, the message you're trying to put across. You also can kind of brand it to your type of business. When I saw this, I said, this is pretty interesting. This is a company that does recycling. So what they did is they took a crumpled up piece of paper that looked like recycled paper to use as their background, which I thought was pretty interesting. Also, everybody likes pets. And if you've got a business that has a graphic, a photo that certainly shows what you're doing, customers using your product, if it has to do with pets, it's always cool to stick pets in there. It is to put pictures in there that are related to the business. So, but don't do like you're selling a manufacturing machine. You go, oh, maybe I should put a little baby or a cat and a baby in this picture so people look at it. Now, it needs to apply to whatever you're doing. All right. Every pitch is going to have some sort of time limitation. You need to know what that limitation is. Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes or whatever? So if you're a person who likes to talk or is a rambler, and you probably know that, you need to make sure you understand how you need to fix that before you go with presentation. If not, and I can again count numerous times where people were ramblers and the clock started, and when the clock went off as ding, time's up, they were on slide 2 of number 10. So if you're a rambler, you need to practice and practice within that particular time frame to make sure that you can make within that particular time frame. So I get a lot of people ask me, do I memorize my presentation? So my answer is no. You should never memorize a presentation. And I've seen cases where people, you can tell, have memorized their presentation because they're kind of just reading it off, which is even worse if you're standing in front of everybody and actually have a piece of paper in front of your hand and actually reading your presentation. That's even worse than memorizing it and reading it. But you definitely want to take your time to kind of, the way I usually tell people when I work with people with pitches, I say, okay, let's write down what you want to say. Let's put it in a narrative format and start reading over it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Okay. Once you read over it, now let's create bullet points off of that. And the bullet points are what you're going to work with as you work through your presentation to kind of memorize stuff. You can kind of think of a comic, a comedian that goes out and stands in front of you and tells jokes. Well, prior to that presentation, or prior to that presentation, I guess you say, they have written down all their jokes. They have figured out what they're going to say. But once they get on stage, it just sounds natural. It sounds like they're just making these jokes up as they go. And that's basically what you want the audience to do, is feel like you're just talking. You're having a conversation. And the way you do that is you practice, 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 and making sure you fit within that timetable. All right. To me, when I'm judging anything or listening to investors in an investor pitch, most important thing for me that I look for, or I should say one of the most important things, is the confidence and passion of the people, that they are exuding passion for the product, passion for their business, that they are looking at this business and going, man, this is the greatest thing in the world. I've got confidence we're going to be successful. There's no way in the world our team is not going to pull this off. And that to me means that I don't care what these guys are I'm going to listen to the rest of it and feel comfortable that they're going to do something with this. But if you're showing a lack of confidence, or either one of these, confidence without passion or passion without confidence, is not good, you're certainly going to bomb. And it kind of comes back to my last point of memorizing. So if you are confident and passionate about what you're doing and have kind of put together bullet points, you're talking from your heart. You're talking from the knowledge that you have in the business. You have confidence and passion of what you're doing, and you'll be successful at doing a pitch, and you're not going to have to worry about bombing on it. All right, so let's talk about 10, 11, 12 steps to a great pitch. We're only going to talk about probably 10 or 11 of them. Some of them provide to VCs and things like that. So we're going to talk about storytelling, problem, solution, market size, business model, competition, marketing strategy, and the go-to-market strategy, traction, team, financials, and the ask. We're not going to talk about exit strategy. I have found that this system is the best way to put your message across in this particular order. If you want to move stuff around, that's fine, but this is what I have always found to me to be the best order of things to talk about. All right, storytelling. So it is crucial you start off your presentation with a story. You had 30 seconds to grab your audience attention to go whether or not they're going to sit there and listen or basically go pick up their phone and start texting people. Okay. So do not start off your presentation like, and unfortunately, I've heard many of them do this. Okay. I'm going to give you my say. So I walk in and go, hi, I am Tom Tanner. I am the CFO, CEO, COO, and founder of my company, boring.com. I have a degree from Harvard and a master's from Yale and a doctorate from blah, 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 which has nothing to do with what I'm going to be pitching today. Okay. Not the way to do it. Unfortunately, I get a lot of people do that. Storytelling is about talking about why you started the business, why you got into it, why you created this product. If you want to learn more, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, plenty of good books on storytelling. But that is the way you start off. You don't start off by introducing yourself and talking about your business right up front. So I'm going to start off and this give you an example. So this is an example of a business in Roanoke. This is Lyman Connor, who started a company called Handsman. I worked with him for years. So I'm going to pretend like I am Lyman. So I'm going to walk in, come up on stage. I'm not going to say anything except what I'm getting ready to say. I'm going to walk up and go, hi, I'm an avid biker. And one day I was out riding my bicycle and I got hit by a car. Immediately they rushed me to the hospital. I was sitting in bed and got bruises and cuts all over me. I ended up with stitches and sprained ankle and a broken hand and all kind of stuff. And after many hours, I finally got a chance to leave. So I got in the elevator to go home. So when I got in the elevator, there was this mom with this small boy next to her. And the small boy was staring at me, and I kept staring back at him. I finally said, I look kind of scary, don't I? I got all these bruises and cuts and bandages all over me. And the boy said, yeah, but at least you still have two hands. So that's when I noticed the boy was missing his right hand. So I talked to the mom after I got off the elevator, and I found out the boy was born that way. And they've tried to get an artificial hand, but it was just too expensive and the insurance wouldn't pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when I went home and said, I'm going to build an inexpensive artificial hand that everyone can afford. And that's how my business got started. So that's storytelling. So after hearing that story, are you captivated to go, I got to hear more. I got to hear more of what's going on. I'm just dying to find out what's coming in business. Or would it have been better for Lyman to come up and go, "Hi, I'm Lyman Connor. I'm an electrical engineer at General Electric designing electric turbines for power plants, and I want to make an artificial hand." Which story would have been more interesting to you? So figure out, how do you story tell? How do you get going? All right. So let's talk about the problem. So now we get into the meat and potatoes of it. Your story is captivating. I hope it's captivating. And you're going to talk a little bit about the problem in your storytelling. But you want to make sure you understand what the pain or your problem that you're solving is. Is the problem, is it costing too much? Is it time efficiency, or is it something worse like pain or death? Also, I always like to use the analogy, are you selling painkillers or are you selling vitamins? So let's just take an example. If you have a massive backache, you can't sleep, you go, "I got to take some pain medication. I'm going to do anything to be able to get this pain gone so I can go to sleep." Okay. So those are painkillers you're selling, which are obviously vital if you're selling a product that people have to have. Vitamins are very beneficial, and many businesses are selling vitamins, and I mean products that people would like to have but are not necessarily a necessity. But the problem with vitamins is if you're in a hurry one day, forget to take your vitamins, it isn't the end of the world. Okay. So one question you have to ask yourself, if you're selling vitamins, can you shape your product into a painkiller? You may or may not, but it's just something to think about when you're putting together your problem statement. Is there a way to make it sound like this is really a requirement that people have, not a nicety? So I'll give you a quick example is a smartphone. Many years ago when smartphones first came out, it was nice to have. People would come in and go, "Cool, look at all the neat things I can do. Look at all the cool games I can play on this phone." But nowadays, especially if you're in business, or I guess a teenager, um, it's just as important as pain medications. Okay. So think about that as you're developing your problem situation. So here's just an example of making sure that when you develop your problem statement, it really focuses on quantifiable things. So the initial statement in this particular one, this is a company that was developing a cleaning solution for hospitals. So their initial problem statement was hospitals are struggling to keep up with decontamination of patient rooms. Okay, that's a statement. It's a policy statement. It's a problem they're having. Okay, but it's not very quantifiable. So let's come back and shape it a little bit and go, 60% of hospitals have shown a 35% increase in infections and deaths as a result of their complex cleaning protocols and the 3 times increase in hospitalization rates. A much stronger, more defined, quantifiable problem that people are probably going to listen more to. All right, so now how do I make that look pretty? And using graphics and things like that, just an example of showing stuff that you can use as an example. There's another one where you put together stuff. The idea is not just throwing a bunch of text up on a screen, it's kind of make it look pretty. So people pay more attention to it, it's just more memorable, etc. All right, so now that you've come up with your problem, now you got to figure out what are you doing to solve the problem. Make sure you understand what the problem is, what the customers is experience, not necessarily what you think the customer's experience. So let's just give you an example. If the problem that is happening that is what they're buying or what they're using is too costly, then your solution is, how do I make it more affordable? Is what the speed of getting the problem solved? How do I make it faster? Is it not, is I'm having too many poor quality issues? Then how do I make it more precision? How do I increase capacity? How do I make it safer, healthier? So look at your problem and figure out how do you take the opposite of that and then shape your solution statement to that. And these, again, just an example. These are more just to show you visually things that you should do to kind of make it more understandable to somebody who's looking at your presentation rather than just having some statements written up there. This is a great time to demo your product, to show if you have a prototype that you can show somebody, or you have, let's say, an app, you want to demonstrate your app, or if you're a food-based product. Boy, I love to do judging of food-based products, because then people bring samples and you get to eat cupcakes all day or whatever it might be. So, but this is a great place that people can get their hands on your product and get a feel of what you actually got. So number 4 is who and the size of the market. So this is where you want to discuss how big is your market and who is your market, understanding who's the demographic, what's the psychographic, are you serving a particular niche? So that this is something, again, as a judge or investor, we're looking at is, are you concentrating on a particular niche? We always like niches because it's easier to define. It's easy to become the expert in. There's usually less competition in a niche market. So those are nice things. So talk about that. Talk about how you determine that information. Did you do any customer discovery, which means you've gone out in the field and talked to potential customers, and you've got a list of the customers' feels of what their pain points are, who they are demographically speaking, et cetera, how often they buy, how much they pay for products, et cetera. And also understanding how big the market is, understanding, are you just going to be selling within a small area? Are you selling statewide? Are you selling all over the United States? Are you selling international? Are you selling business to business? Are you selling business to consumer? Are you selling business to government, or a combination of those? So this is just an example of how you can show your demographics, of showing, the gender and age, and you can obviously you can put as many things up here as you want to kind of, so somebody's looking at it, they can immediately see that you're going to be servicing more males from 21 to 26 than females. So it kind of gives you a good feel real quick of who you're servicing. This is an example of just showing how, if you want to show your market size, and here's another one that shows your market size. And this is talking about TAM, SAM, and SOM, which probably most of y'all, if any of you, have no idea what that means, but that's okay. I'm going to teach you. So in the next slide, it kind of gives you an example. So TAM is your total market available market. SAM is your service of addressable market and serviceable obtainable market. So let's take an example of the baker. So we got a bakery that's located in a town of 1 million people, or a city of 1 million people. So that's the million is a total available market. Okay. So the serviceable addressable market is say, well, people are not going to come more than 5 or 6 miles. So we'd have 100,000 people within that particular area. Okay. So that's my addressable market. But I'm not going to be able to capture 100% of them. So maybe I can capture 10% of them. So that shows me that there's a 10,000 person market there that I have ability to market and go after. So if you can gather these statistics, these are very useful for you to kind of get a feel of how big your market is. And especially if you're doing a pitch, or especially to an investor, they're going to really want to know this information. All right, so let's talk about business model. So business model is basically, how do we make money in the business? Okay, what are your revenue streams? Such as if you're a restaurant, your restaurant could be people walking in, sitting down, ordering, paying, and walking out the door. It could be that they call in and come in and pick up and take out. It could be, Grubhub or DoorDash, or any of those others. It could be that you offer catering service or event programs. So those are those kind of things. Maybe you have an online business and you have a freemium model where people can sign up for free and they can get very basic features, but then they have a subscription model to get additional features, such as they have a premium service, Maybe they have a team or enterprise solution, et cetera, et cetera. So that's that particular model. And also understanding how often do customers buy? You know, are they buying once a month because it's a subscription service? Is it a local bakery and a coffee shop and people come in twice a week and they spend $15? All that's not good because that's going to help you put together your financial models also. So again, this is just an example of showing, this is one that shows a basic revenue model so people can visually see what you're offering, what the model is. This is just another example. All right. So number 6, competitors. So the number one mistake you can make in any pitch is stating that you have no competition. You don't want to go in and go, I have no competition, I am the competition. And believe me, I've actually heard people say that before. So what that means to me is one of a few things. One is you didn't do any research to see who your competition is, because if there's a problem out there, people are already getting it solved. So if they're getting it solved, you have competitors. Okay. If in fact nobody's out there doing this and honestly not doing this, then my question is probably is, well, there's really not a problem, therefore there's not a valid business, then just go away. Okay. Or maybe you're trying to go, maybe if I mention that I don't have any competition, I'll score higher in this contest because I'm going to pull the wool over the eyes of the audience, which is obviously not going to work. Or maybe you are truly unique and you've discovered how to split an atom in your garage. You created a machine that does that. Okay. In that case, it's probably going to cost too much to get into the market anyway. All right. Competitors. Even Steve Jobs invented his revolutionary iPod. Okay. He still had competition. Remember the Walkman. So we all have competition. So how do you show those? So this is a good little chart that you can use to throw out your competition up there. And it's a 2x2 chart and kind of show, all right, you know, inexpensive transactions, online, offline, et cetera, et cetera. You can kind of show how your business fits within this model. Or you can use these types of charts that kind of show what you do, what your competitors do and don't do. And here's another example of one that shows we do all this stuff. And when you do this, obviously, when you're creating these things, you want to make sure that the things that you list that you can check. So don't have an X in one of the boxes for you. That would not make sense. All right. As part of this, we have to think about value proposition. You have to think about is what is your unique value proposition? What makes you different than everybody else? Okay. So understanding the competition is great, but understanding what makes you different. You got to convince the audience that you're building a better mousetrap, that you are doing things everyone else, because if you're doing things that everyone else is doing, and you're not doing anything different, then why are people going to shop with you? They're not going to do that. They're just going to stay where they're at. So convince me that you've come up with something that's unique, that sets you apart from everyone else. The last thing I like to hear anybody say, again, I hear this all the time, is I'll ask, what makes you unique? And they say, well, we're going to offer the best quality, the best customer service as anyone. Well, to me, if you're not offering the best quality, best customer service, you shouldn't be in business. So that to me is not a competitive advantage. Now, that into addition to a lot of other things, maybe, but you're not going to be, that's not going to be the only thing that should set you apart. Now, the exception may be is if, let's just say your product is different than other products because of the quality, because you've got ISO certifications and others don't, or something like that. That's a different story. But just coming in and giving a blanket comment, again, I hear this all the time. Oh yeah, we're going to be a lot better quality, and we're going to be, our customer service is going to be so much better than everybody else. is to me is not something I believe is necessarily a competitive advantage. This is also where you're going to mention if you have trademarks or patents or trade secrets or any unfair distribution model, which basically means you've got exclusive agreements or licenses or something like that. And again, this is again just a graphic kind of giving you some ideas of what it look like. Now, you may or may not have time to actually put up a SWOT analysis. If you do, me sitting in with a conversation, I'm not interested in your SO side of the equation, strength or opportunities. You're most likely already presenting that as part of your presentation. What I'm interested is in the W and the T's. What weaknesses do you have? Have you identified your weaknesses? Because I'm probably going to ask you at the end of the presentation, what weaknesses, what limitations do you have? Where are your weaknesses? Where are your threats coming from? So even if you don't put it in a presentation, you definitely want to make sure that you've written down all these things so that you can provide those answers. It's no different from an interview. If you're preparing for a job interview, you kind of think about what's all the questions they're going to ask me so I can prepare for those answers. This is the same thing. Make sure that you're thinking about every question they're going to ask you so that you're prepared to answer them. So you just don't wing it. All right, next, marketing strategy. So you've done a great job of convincing everybody. You got a great product. You got a great, you got the people out there wanting to buy it, everything else. But if nobody knows you exist, then it's not going to matter anyway. So you got to come up with some sort of good, solid marketing strategy. How are you going to get to the marketplace? What's your distribution strategy? Again, I'm not going to go in big detail here, but this is where you want to not necessarily lay out some complex matrix of all the stuff, but you want to talk about, marketing and sales, customer service, product, distribution. How is all this going to happen? And just do some really key points or basic bullet points in this section to talk about these. And these are just another example. This again is showing a go-to market strategy of how are you getting to the marketplace? Are you, what channels are you using to market? Are you using social media, using email, direct mail, Facebook ads, or whatever it may be. And what's your distribution? Are you a retailer? Are you a wholesaler? Are you going to be using distributors, online sales? If it's online sales, how are you doing it? Et cetera, et cetera. We want to understand how you're getting the product to the market, how people find out about you, and how do you get it to the marketplace. And that's just another example. Yeah, that's another example. Okay, traction. So traction would only apply as if you're currently in business and you actually have sales or revenue. If you don't, or if you don't have customers or revenue, just skip this section, don't even include it in there. But if you do, you want to talk about it. You want to talk about, hey, we've already got customers, we've got sales, we've got good margins. This is a great example here. It's showing, hey, look at our users over the last month. We've gone from Q2 to Q4. We've gone crazy. And the same thing in the number of detailers, the number of revenue that's increased, et cetera, et cetera. So detailers is just, this is a small business. These are small businesses this company sells to. So this is a great little chart that kind of shows what traction you've had, because traction means that you've already taken the first step and show that customers really want your product, versus I have an idea, I think people want my product, and I've got to convince you that people want my product because I want you to give me money, or I want to win a contest, or whatever it might be. And that's just another example. All right, number 9, team. So many years ago, I sat in with an investor pitch, and one of the investors in there, a very seasoned investor, said, we were talking, he goes, the team to me is one of the most important things. I'm going to invest in a good, solid team that has a good history of being successful, that has an average product, before I'm going to invest in a company that has a fabulous product but a poor team. So think about your team. In your team, you may be sitting there going, well, it's just me. Well, you need to figure out who else could it be? I mean, do you have mentors that you're working with? Put them up there. Do you have advisors you're working with? Put them up there. You have an accountant. You have an attorney you're working with. Put those people up there so that it looks like you've got people that you can rely on. It could be, the business owner. Maybe it's a group, advisory board or something. You don't want to get to the team and basically have your smiling picture there and that's it, because that's not very impressive as a team. And again, this is just another picture of using the team slide to show people. All right, so financials, we get into the meat of the matter. Is, of course, financials in your pitch should be really simple and only show the high level numbers in projections. Don't get into the weeds in this section. That's what your business plan is for. Your business plan is going to show those more detailed informations. The key is making sure that your projections are backed by reasonable assumptions. So my number one question, anytime I'm sitting in a presentation and I'm judging or an investor or whatever, my first question is, how did you come up with those numbers? What assumptions did you make? Was it based on historical information? If it wasn't based on historical information because you're new, how'd you base it on? Did you look at it and go, okay, I figured out what my, total addressable market is, my serviceable objectionable market is. I figured out by talking to 100 potential customers that they're going to shop with me twice a week. And when they come in twice a week, they're going to spend $10. Then that's going to create a business model that I can easily put a modeling program that can easily come up with financial numbers. And I think as I grow, they can easily do 10 or 20%. I've talked to other people within the same industry and in other locations that when they started, here was their growth cycle that they started off and, they were doubling every 6 months or something like that. So now I'm looking at it and go, okay, you've thought through these numbers versus, I don't know, I just sat around and looked up in the air and went, I think I can do this. All right. And don't do this. So what you want to do is have charts to kind of show what you think your growth is going to be. Like this is showing easily accessible numbers. It's showing your revenue going up each year. If you're a real small business, just doing something as simple as this, showing, okay, I think revenue 1, 2, and 3, my profit's going to be this, my cash flow is going to be that, then that's enough for me to at least get a general idea that you're heading in the right direction, not the wrong direction. All right. So this section is about to ask is, what do you need to be successful? Is it money? Do you need $10,000? Do you need $50,000? Do you need $100,000? If so, what are you going to use it for? If you say, I need $10,000 because I need to buy an $8,000 machine, and then I'm going to use $2,000 for marketing expenses in order to bring people in to be able to sell them more of this particular service. Or I don't really need any money right now. What I need is connections. I need resources. I need mentors so that I can grow the business to the point where I can come back and ask for money at that time. So this is a very important screen that you don't want to get to the end of your business presentation, your business pitch and go, okay, thank you for listening. And that's it. It's basically your call to action. All right. So other tips, you want to think about using impactful images as we mentioned before, any kind of images, any kind of pictures are useful. White space, try to keep as much white space around so it doesn't look like you've got text everywhere. We talk about graphics. Make sure you include your contact info at the end of it. Some people just end their presentation and it's like, all right, how do you get a hold of these people? And as always, don't forget to include confidence and passion throughout. Something else that you can do, and I always like to see these happen in the presentation, is create what we call a short sheet, which is basically just a one-page document that puts across really basic information about your company and your pitch. That when you come in and walk in, you hand this to the judges and go, I just want to give you this so you have some general information, and then produce the pitch. So it gives something to leave behind, which kind of gives you some bonus points. If it's a contest, it's really a nice bonus points because anytime I see these, it's go, oh, this people got their crap together here. and know what they're doing. So that's just an additional kind of thing. All right. And that is the presentation. I have a couple of examples, but I think I'd rather jump in to see if there's any questions. And what I'll do is I'll share these links to these pitch examples online and just let you listen to a couple of them. One is kind of funny, but it's actually a good pitch. The other one is a good pitch, but he's made some mistakes. So it kind of lets you kind of look through and go, okay, he kind of went through the process that Tom was talking about, but he kind of made a couple of mistakes, but at least I kind of know it. So I'll send you those links as part of it. So, Heather, why don't we stop the recording and go in and see if we have any questions?